Hey there, Wendy here with Jazzydoodledesigns, and someone on the channel asked me for a color long in the Daydreams book, so I thought I would go ahead and do that. I have chosen this page right here with this fly, and I'm going to be using pan pastels and probably Prismacolor colored pencils, but it's going to be done like in dark purples that kind of spread into like an aqua color, and then iridescent wings, and we'll see how it goes. This isn't my normal color palette, so trying to push my coloring what's the word I'm looking for? Push the limits, or just step out of my comfort zone, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if you'd like to join me, if you don't have pan pastels, you can do this with regular pastels like Mungio pastels. You could use Neocolor too. You could use Albrecht Dürer or a watercolor for what I'm going to do here on the side, or you could use colored pencils, or you could use an acrylic paint, just like, okay, so what I'm thinking is just, or what I'm talking about is just something like this. This is just cheap craft paint. You can water this down or use it full strength. So depending on the look that you're going for, you'll see the effect that I have in mind. I like working with pan pastels. I said this on a previous video. One of the things I really love is that they're erasable. So I don't have to mask all of this off. I can go in with my pan pastels and then just erase where I don't want them. And that is a huge time saver for me. It is also, I don't know, it's just so freeing because there are no mistakes, right? So you put down blue and you're like, oh, I don't like that color. You can erase it and put down a yellow. It literally erases well enough that you could do that. Now, the one thing I will say is the other nice thing is they blend so beautifully, and they're so opaque. Most of them are very opaque, so you can actually cover up a color. So if you went in and you didn't like the color you could put a different color. Do you want up? Sorry, Her Highness needed up in her bed. But you'll see that when I'm playing around with it, it's just really fantastic. But I've blathered on enough. The one thing I will note is pan pastels, while nowhere near as messy as chalk pastels, I still will protect this page just because, as you can see, you'll get pastel on your hand and then you'll smudge it. And so I will be protecting this page. I'll also put a page underneath just for a little protection. Once again, it's all erasable, but why erase if we don't have to, right? So I'll see you in a couple minutes. Okay, so I'm back, and what I've done is taped just a piece of copy paper both here, and I actually taped it here. The reason being is because otherwise this piece of paper always moves on me and it just annoys me, and then I get like a little bit of pastel here and then the paper moves and I get it on the back. So I just find it easier to do that. Now what this is 3M micro pore surgical tape. Now I bought this a long time ago, right after I had my stroke. I had to have a heart monitor, and regular tape you know, the kind that they put on you to hold things down, it breaks me out. And so this I can use and it doesn't bother me. So I bought this and it works fantastic for like doing this kind of stuff because you don't have to worry about it being too sticky. So I find it really nice instead of using something like washi tape or masking tape. You know how you take masking tape and you press it on your pants and stuff. Now, I'm not saying run out and buy this stuff. It's just an alternative if you ever see any and it's cheap. And you can use it for Band-Aids and whatnot. So I thought I would show you that. Okay, so let's get started. I have one of these little sponges. I will use it to kind of blend on. I've got several different little tools that I'll be using to apply the pastels. I have a kneaded eraser, a regular eraser, a battery eraser. I can't find my other one right now, but I'll have it too. Oh, here it is. Basically, these are both battery erasers, but this one just has a much finer head. It's an AFMAT. So I'll have those. And our pan pastels. The colors that I've chosen are phthalo green, turquoise, white, colorless blender, black, violet shade, violet, and ultramarine blue shade. So we're going to start with that, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so my thought is I want it to go with the dark purples. Oh, a couple other things that you're going to need. I like to use, this is just a microfiber cloth, and this is what I'll wipe my little applicators on. And then I will have a baby wipe, just any sort of baby wipe, just off to the side, because you're going to get pan pastels on your hand, and periodically you want to wipe those off, and then make sure your hands are dry before, you know, you touch your project. But even though they're way cleaner than regular pastels, I am a messy artist, so I have to do that. You might not find that necessary. I'm going to try and keep this to where you can see. Maybe I'll zoom in just a little bit more. I'd like for you to be able to see the colors as I choose. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in. I'm going to start with this darker purple. Then I'm going to go purple. Then I'm going to go blue. Then I'm going to go kind of a combination of blue-green. And I want this piece right in here where the fly is to be just ever so slightly white. You know what else I need? Okay, so I added just a touch of magenta. We'll just kind of see how it goes. So let's get started. So when you use pan pastels, I want you to watch how much I take. So I'm going to dip into the spot that isn't touched. That's how much I have. You can see it on there. But watch how far this goes. I mean, it really goes a long way. And look how those just blend. It's so beautiful how they blend. So I'm just tapping or swiping, and I can mix them right together as I go. So I go in. Now the key to not wearing out your little applicators, these are called soft applicators, these little spongy things, they kind of have the feel like a makeup sponge, but I promise you they're different. I can't tell you why they're different chemically, but they do apply differently. Now I'm going to take a touch of black and just deepen this up a little bit. What's nice is if I say, oh, that's too much, I just go right back in with my purple, and look how that, I just push that back again. But I like how it adds a little bit of darkness up here in these corners. Now don't be afraid, I'm not afraid of going all the way into my project here. First of all, it will erase. So that's good. Okay, I think I'm gonna now I got some dust on there because I was being aggressive. And I was rubbing on the edges there. I really like what that blue does. It really changes this purple to a more blue purple. And that's kind of the look I'm going for. But see, I'm not too worried about that black being there. If you don't like that, you can take your sponge and just wipe it off. These clean up really nice. But see how freeing this is? I mean, it goes on quickly. Add just a touch of that black again. And then kind of push it back. Now let's say, see, you don't want to wipe because it'll smear, and really you don't want to blow. I usually just tap it off to the side a little bit. But now I'm going to go in and I'm going to flip this one over. See how those slide off and slide on? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my blues. And look how beautifully that blends. And if you get a little too much dark, just add a little light. If you get too much purple on there, Now, I can switch to another one, but I'm going to just keep going in. Now I'm just going in with the light only. Now here's where I'm going to start picking up just a little bit of green and then blend it out with that blue. And then I'm going to go in, I'm going to use a lighter one, and I'm going to go in with my white. And just kind of, if I pick up too much blue, I'm just wiping it off. Because you're going to pick up blue from here. And I'm just going to do this until I find what I like. But see, I picked up a lot of blue that round, and I just wipe it off on my cloth. And then I go in, and I'm going to add just hints of this. So I wipe off the bulk of it. And if I see something that's a little too stark, I just blend. Now you're probably thinking, what in the heck is she even doing? She's covered the entire thing. And I have. And I'm okay with that. Because I'm going to do some erasing. So now I'm going to go in with my eraser. And I'm going to show you how easy it is. I'm going to get a piece. So this is just deli wrap, like you would wrap sandwiches in. And I'm going to pull out my eraser a little bit. See how my hands got that? Just a little baby wipe. Take that right off. So I'm going to do that. And then what I want to be doing now is looking at my picture, because asking myself, do I like this? Do I want to add more? Do I want to take any away? Where am I at? So this is the time when you just kind of play. Do I want a little bit more of this color? Or a little more here? Now see, I went over that wing again, and that's fine because colored pencil will color right over the wings. So I'm really not worried. I just mainly wanted to show you what it can do. Now, I usually erase on something like this, like on my wing, because I'm going to make it transparent. But like on this piece, it's going to be darker, so I'm not worried. My colored pencil is going to even all that out. But if I'm using really light colors here, and I already have some base color, that could change things. So that's something to be aware of. And then you just really want to look at your picture, because once I spray this with fixative, then I can't erase anymore. Now, I can put more layers on, and that kind of stuff, so that's fine. But you really just want to make sure that that you've erased anything. I want to lighten that up just a little bit. I want it to be somewhat in a circle here of white. Now I can always erase to get that lighter, but I can add the white too. This is actually looking pretty good. There's a little bit of blending that I need to do right here. See, I just don't want those marks of color. I want it to blend a little smoother. Now here I have kind of a dark smudge, so I'm going to take my darker one. Let's see if I can adjust that a little. If you get it wet, it will definitely change things up a little. here I'm using a kneaded eraser, and I'm just kind of dabbing off color here and there, and then I fold the eraser in on itself to get a new piece of the eraser and just tapping it off. Now this works well if you just want to pick up a little bit of color. It's not as effective as using a regular eraser or your battery eraser, but sometimes it's good at kind of smoothing out some demarcations, or however you want to say it, gradient lines. So I just continue to play here and add and subtract until I find something I like. Okay, so I'm back. I did 2 coats of workable fixative. You can see nothing is coming off. I'm going to leave these on here because we will have to do a little erasing because, you know, it still gets on there a little bit. But just as a preventative, I think I'm just going to keep them on there. But I wanted to touch base before I put my pan pastels away. So let's begin. The first thing I'm doing here is I'm kind of outlining where the fly's body would be. In order to make these wings look a little transparent, I want to emphasize the body shape underneath the wings. Now, I don't know that I was as effective as I wanted to be, but this is how I did it. I go in with my cool gray 90, and then this is the main color of the beetle or the fly. And so I'm going in and kind of laying down a fair amount of color, not pushing super hard. But now I'm going to work on the wings, and let me zoom you in. Okay, so going in with my lavender, I'm making light flicks. Now I don't want to flick all the way to the middle. I want to leave some white space in the middle to help make it look a little more transparent. But on each of these little segments, I'm just going in and just like you would flick with hair. So pushing down and lightening your pencil as you flick up. And you want these to be delicate, so sharpen your pencil as sharp as you can get it and use kind of like a pressure of maybe 2. But you can already see the effects that this has. And once again, just trying to keep that center spot open. So we don't want to draw our flicks too far in. Now, where the body is segmented, I treat that as a separate segment. I'm not sure if you should or not, but that's how I did it. Now I'm going in and doing the exact same thing with this light aqua. Now where the two actually blend over, they're going to create kind of a purple. But there's going to be flicks that are not on the lavender, and so you're going to get a little bit of that aqua color, you're going to get a little bit of the lavender, and then you're going to get a nice kind of like a periwinkle purple color. And I really like the effects of this, or the look of this is maybe the best way to say it. Now you could use any color. I just felt like these colors went with my design, but you know, you could have given them golden wings and used gold colors. We could have added more color into this. Now with this cream, I am putting just a hint of the cream in each of the little white spaces. Now I just feel like this makes the wings glow just a touch. You want to be careful not to put too much. We don't want to create a green. We don't want to make them yellow. We just want them to almost have a glowing golden color. Now I'm going in with my white Prisma and I'm going over and blending everything out. Really emphasizing the white in that white space. Okay, so just blend, blend, blend. So this is a very subtle effect. Now I should probably add more of that darker purple into the middle section of those wings to make it look a little more transparent. And honestly, I thought about doing it, and then I just, you know, squirrel, and I moved on. And in the end, I'm okay with that. But I'm just going in and adding darkest tones to the shadowy areas. And in this case, I just kind of picked. You could have made the darker at the bottom if you wanted to. I just feel like it looks a little better. And it makes more sense to me if you think about those things being layered, that we want to have our darkest tones there up at the top. Now these are going to be gold, and so I'm using goldenrod, and then I'm going to use the cream. Now I probably should have stopped right there before I put this layer on. But it really just depends on how dark of gold you want. So, you know, whatever, like, that goldenrod color, if you want your gold to be brighter, just use like a canary yellow or something like that. By using the goldenrod, it makes it a little more like antique-y gold. Because you know gold comes in all different flavors, so to speak. Now, I am just randomly adding this color to the little scales of the fly. Let me zoom you in a little. And I'm adding them randomly. And I'm not worried if each color fills up an individual scale. I kind of want them to overlap a little bit. So I'm just taking my other colors, my other purple, and let's see what else I come up with. Lilac. Because I want there to be a variance of color. Because I want this fly to look a little iridescent. So here's that lavender that I used in the wings. Because we definitely want to pull that color in as well. But you can see there's still white, there's still little pieces of scales. Now here I bring in the aqua. Now I want this to be a lot more subtle. I'm not adding near as much of this as I am the purple tones. And then I do add a little bit of the cream as well. Just because I feel like the cream kind of gives it that glowy effect. Now I want to sharpen my white. And I want to go in and blend. So I'm just blending each little scale. So what I don't want to do is blend over the entire thing like in a big swishy pattern or something. I'm trying to go in and blend each individual scale. Now here I'm darkening the body shape, especially around the bottom there. I just felt like a lot of the tooth was still showing. And I made a conscious decision not to, those little bands that are going across the fly, I hadn't decided, did I want to make them gold? Did I want to make them black? Did I want to make them this darker purple? Do I want them to be aqua? Like, I hadn't quite made up my mind yet. So I just skip it. And you can always make those decisions later. And I find that that's really effective because sometimes you'll find at the end of your picture that you need a little more dark, or you need a little more light, or you need, whatever. So I'm just going in with the purples and creating his head or the little eyes, going with my darkest tones and leaving those little white shiny bits in the middle. Now I decided this little piece, this rounded piece, also needed to be gold. So here I am dealing cards in Vegas again. And, but I want to add the dark there just to add a little bit of contrast. Now I'm keeping all those little dots open as well. And I'll make a decision later on what color I want those. And I decide that the rest of that head should be in purple. I debated on doing a gold. I even debated on putting black in this. But I really decided that I didn't want the black in the center here just because I want this to be my focal point, and not that black wouldn't, but I don't know how to explain it. I want the dark to be on the sides, and then it goes light, and then we have the beautiful, quote unquote, beautiful fly there. And I decided that I wanted the darker side of the beetle wing. So this is the side that when those wings close, form the shell of the beetle. I decided I wanted the outside edges to be the darker edges. Just because I felt like that way the lighter part would blend right into the wings. Now, you could choose to do it the other way, or do this do this entire piece in darker tones to really add the emphasis that your wings are light. And that would be another way to do it, and not necessarily a bad way. All these decisions that I make, they're just mine. There's no right or wrong way. It just happens to be the way I did it. And I just like to tell you my thought process so that you can say, oh, okay, and then totally disregard everything that I say. Because that's the great thing about coloring, is that somebody else is going to color this picture. Even if you're doing my color along, you can still make all the decisions along the way. Oh, I really like how she did that. I'll do that. I like that, but I think it would look better if this was this or this was that, right? And it's kind of the best of both worlds, isn't it? Because you can see what it looks like if you do it that way, but then you can make your own conscious decision to change it up. So I decided I wanted to bring in some more of that aqua into the actual beetle. I keep calling it a beetle. It's a fly, Wendy. Do you think he's offended that I'm calling him a beetle? I don't know. Okay, so for the legs, what I chose to do is I'm bringing in that darker tone around the edge, and then I'm going to bring in the lighter colors in the middle, hoping that they'll be kind of reflective, that'll give off kind of that metallic iridescent vibe. Iridescent. I don't know if that was successful, but that was my thought process with this. As opposed to, I thought about making them gold. I think that would look good too. I have all these ideas. Sometimes I want to color another picture just like this one and change it all up. Initially, I didn't think I was going to use any gold in this. I thought I would use silver because I wanted to keep it all the cool tones, but in the end, I felt like I needed that little bit of a pop of color. What do you guys think? See, and once again here, just like with the scales, I'm just adding random bits of color. I'm not trying to like layer or be precise in the coloring. I just want it just little random bits, and I personally like how it turned out. I wish you guys could see this picture in person. The camera doesn't always do our pictures justice, and I'm sure I am not the best at setting up all my camera settings. You would think I would be because I love photography, Yeah, if you could see my office, I have a bunch of 8x10s that I took lining around the top, like where the ceiling meets the wall. And because back when my kids were, I don't know, middle school to early high school, I was just really into photography. I have a Canon camera, and, you know, I was just really into it. But I didn't get as much into, I was much more into the composition of photography than in the, oh, what happens if I change this setting and what happens if I change that setting. I'm not, I was never really into that part of it. I was more into, can I find the lighting that I want or the composition of the subject that I want. Okay, back to shit you care about. Whoops, sorry. Okay, so light aqua. So my idea for all of the leaves and the flowers and things like that is the areas that are closest to the fly are going to be significantly lighter than, like, they're going to fade into darker. And sometimes I do that just by adding cool gray. Sometimes I do that by changing color. But I really want the illusion, I'm sure you've seen the final, where, we've got our light tones here. Such a fine balance with zooming. It's like I want you up close so you can see what I'm doing, but then it's so easy to get out of camera or have your color card not be in camera. That happens to me too. So here I go with the darker tone and slightly off camera. At least I figured it out before too long. But you can see how this makes it look like it's in shadow. That's kind of the look I'm going for. Like there's some sort of light emanating from the fly that's making these leaves lighter on one side. Personally, I gotta tell you, this picture is one of my favorite that I've ever done. I really like how this one turns out. I'm doing the exact same thing here with that one leaf. Even though you can't see it, you gotta trust me on it. See, and this one's farther away from the fly, so not as much of it is light. I did a lot more of it in the darker tones. So now I'm using indigo blue just to deepen up the darker areas. Kind of going over that turquoise, that dark turquoise. And in some places you'll see the dark indigos by itself, and then at other times it's actually over that dark turquoise, and that kind of lends to a different shading as well, and just gives it another look. But you can see now how it's starting to kind of, I don't know, come together a little bit. Do you ever have that picture where you feel like what you pictured in your head actually kind of turned out? That doesn't always happen with me. Sometimes I'm working on projects and I might like how it turned out, or I'm not unhappy with how it turned out, but it didn't really it wasn't exactly what I pictured in my head. This one is actually pretty close. So I was kind of excited about that. So I'm going to leave you to it for a minute, and I'm going to walk as I go along. I think the next step is I'm going to add cool gray also to it to just deepen it up. So I'll be back in a few. Okay, so now I'm going to do the exact same thing here with these smaller leaves. I'm going to be using the lavender, and then I'll push into the violets, the palm violet, Wendy. Parma violet? Is that what it is? And then working into the darker tones all the way to the back. So, and then I believe I blend out the tips with white. I might do that at the end. So I'm going to set you to music again. And I apologize, but there really isn't a whole lot to say other than do this for the next couple of minutes. So we'll see you in a few. Okay, so I'm actually going to start working on these little flowers as well. I'm going to use the white. I want you to notice how lovely it is that the white really pops off of those pan pastels. So by putting that base layer of color down, your white just is really vibrant. So what would be kind of cool is if you didn't have a tan tone paper, you could probably use a pastel and lay that down and then spray it with fixative. Now you would have a tanned paper. Okay, I'm being a little goofy, but I do think it's neat how the white really pops off the page. Because oftentimes when you use white, you're kind of like, meh. Even when you're using it with colored pencil, because it actually kind of blends in with your colored pencil. Whereas because I've sprayed the fixative, it's actually not reacting at all or blending at all with the pan pastel. So I'm just going around to all the small little flowers and bringing in this lavender color. And you're going to see that I use this same light dark on everything that I do. So when I do the big flowers, I'm going to use the same technique, so to speak. Light on the part aiming towards the center, and then darker later on. But I really love how you can work right over the top of these pan pastels and get the effect that you're going for. Now I'm using this cool gray 20% to do my blending. I feel like it adds a nice effect in that I'm not adding more white, I'm not adding more purple, I'm just blending the two together. And I decided to do that on the smaller leaves too, to help kind of blend those out a little bit. Now for the bigger flowers, I decided I wanted to use some blues. I felt like blues would be a nice color to balance all the purple and help connect the blues and the aquas that I used in the leaves to the actual rest of the page. So I'm going to do the three big flowers the same way, just using my darker tones on the shadowy side and then the lighter tones as I go across. So I'll see you in a few. Now the one thing that I will tell you, because you may even see it, I think I kept it in here, is I'm going to erase some of what I do, because I put this indigo down and you can see that the indigo looks very different on top of the lighter color. And I just wasn't really liking that, so I erased the lighter color and then I put my indigo in. So my suggestion to you personally is you have to be careful with some of your lighter colors if you lay them down prior to darker colors, because they can make your colors a lot more vibrant. So that whatever the Copenhagen blue, I think it is, that's a very bright color. So by putting the indigo over it, the brightness of the color shines through. And that was not what I was going for. So keep that in mind. It's one of the reasons I like to work dark to light a lot of times. I really mix it up a lot depending on what I'm working on. But if you want your darker tones, you need to start with your darker tones. If you base everything with light, no matter what you're working on, it's always going to lighten your project a little bit. And depending on what you use, what light color you use, if I use light aqua, that's a lighter blue, it is going to brighten whatever I put it over it. I hope that makes sense, because sometimes it'll lighten it, but sometimes it brightens it. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense. I know what I'm trying to say. I'm just not so sure, if you're not in my head, if you're following. So, and you can see here where I put the white over that Copenhagen blue. Look how bright it is. And I should probably use another word besides bright. But it really pops off the page. There are certain colors that do that. You can put white over other colors and it just softens them and kind of pastels them a little bit, so to speak. And then there's other colors that you put it over and it's like you made a neon color, I guess is what I'm saying. I might have to put the blooper music under that segment. Now, I brought in this black grape because I couldn't decide what to do with these darker leaves, because I really didn't want them to be, the cool grays, because I felt like it would really dull down my colors. And so I chose this black grape, and I think it's a really perfect color because it's like a purple that's in shadow, because of the purple that's behind it and just based on the color itself. I find this to be a really, really nice color when I need to shadow or shade, like a berry or something like that that's red. I find that it's really a nice color to work with. But anyway, I'm just going to go over all of these leaves and I'll see you in a few. Okay, apologies. I seem to miss using the gold marker on the berries, but it's this same gold marker that I'm using right now. And I'm just going over all of these little round spots. It is a gold Pilot pen. And I tested out all of my gold pens, and this was the one that had the shade of gold that closest resembled what I was going for. Because some golds are more yellow golds and some are really light golds. And this one had more of the, I don't know, brown or gold or whatever that I was looking for. So at this point I decided that I wanted these little bands to be purple. So I'm going in with the darkest shades of purple, and then I will blend them out with a lighter shade of purple. And I'm just going to blend it all out, and I'll see you in a few. Okay, so for the center of the flowers, I'm going to first start with our cream color, and I'm just going to go over the tops of those little, are they called stamen? I think so. And then I'm going to go back in with the goldenrod, because I don't want this to be the focal point, and yet I don't want to leave it uncolored either. So I feel like with the darker tones already there, I was able to layer in these colors and still have it be kind of a hint of those colors without it being over the top. And I'm going to do that for all of them. So all the little dots in the little white flowers as well. I like how it makes them look colored without popping off the page bright. Now I decided to go in with the aqua and finish up the little remaining details. I felt like it could use just a little bit more of that aqua tone. Okay, so I am using this Nouveau glitter gloss. This is like Wink Stella. It's just a different name brand. I had bought a Wink Stella the other day, and I accidentally bought gold. So this is a gold Wink Stella, and that's not what I want. Now you could also use something like this, Iridescent Medium by Winsor & Newton. This stuff is fantastic. You can mix it with your watercolors to make them pearlescent. You could just paintbrush this on. To me, this is just a little simpler. And y'all know me, I'm a little bit of a lazy girl. So I don't want to do this on my project, but you want to squeeze and get You want to make sure it's coming out good. But see, that's too much. So you want to definitely do that off of your project. And then I'm just going to go over the wings here. Now you want to be careful if you're using a watercolor medium, because this will activate it because it's wet. And budget brand pencils too. Some of those are a little more water soluble than others. Prismacolor does really well. So let's take a look at what I've got going here. Can you see the shimmer now? And you can see the gold from the Pilot paint pen. So we could let that dry and we could decide if we want a little bit more. This is a very subtle effect. Okay, I put another layer on. And hopefully, I wish you could see, it is so much glitterier, sparkly. Okay guys, that's gonna do it for us on this one. I hope you had as much fun as I did, and until next time, take care. Thank you for watching another video from Jazzydoodledesigns. If you enjoy adult coloring content, please consider subscribing. You can now find me on Instagram and Facebook as well. I welcome all comments and suggestions. Don't forget to like the video before you go. And until next time, take care.